I'm George R. Flowers, Sr. I'm 78 years old, and I'm a native of Evansville, Indiana, born and raised here. I'm married to the lovely Almudine Ray Flowers. I've been married for 54 years, and I have 3 children, 7 grandchildren, and 7 great-grandchildren. I was raised as a poor kid. I was raised one of 7 kids. I was born to the sweet and wonderful Miss Virginia Roberta Flowers. I had 4 sisters and 3 brothers. I was born and raised in the same 2 rooms until I was 11 years old. We were all packed up in there, some sleeping on the floor and some sleeping in the girls slept in the bed, with the big bed with my mother, and the 3 of us, the boys. One, thank God, was a baby. He was real small because we didn't have nothing but a rollaway bed, which was a little 6 foot, and the 3 of us slept in that bed. Later on, attended Lincoln School, which is Lincoln School. Now it was Lincoln High School at the day. From K through 12, and graduating in 1956 from Lincoln. I held many jobs in the community. I actually started working at 10 years old, taking coal and ashes out of a barbecue, one of the local barbecue places located on Lincoln Avenue, Ella Hubbard's Barbecue, actually. And I've held several different jobs, shine shoes and bus boy. Worked at different dining facilities, worked on farms, weeding soybean fields. Actually did sort of just about anything to make a dollar, because I almost had to become self-supporting. We were on welfare, and I couldn't get the things that I desired and seen my other peers wearing. So I went to work to try to get some of those things, plus taking some of the money back home, helping Mama with the younger ones. I've always been attracted to uniforms, and I think the reason for that is because of being shut out as a young person, because of my status in life wouldn't involve people. I wasn't invited into a whole lot of different settings, and I always wanted to belong. I wanted to feel like I was accepted. And because, like I say, the way I was raised, and that's even amongst my own race, I was not included in a lot of things. So the uniform kind of has always attracted me. I felt like I was automatically a part of something. I used to hang around the local fire stations when I was a young kid, number 9s, located at Olive and Governor Street, and it was kind of appealing to me. Plus, it was good job security, because when I came out of the military, I went to work at a factory, and we were experiencing layoffs, and I had a young family at the time, and I just wanted something a little bit more secure. So the fire department I seen where those guys never gotten laid off, so I went for that and finally got on. My first major job after my probationary period was actually a pumper driver, in other words, engine driver, the truck that carried the water. I became an engineer, and from that, the next move that I made was that as an EMT. The Honorable Mayor Russell Lloyd had elevated several African Americans up to that position, and I was trained at Ivy Tech, and for that, and emergency care and transportation. And so I stayed with that for about five years. And my next major job was that I was captain briefly, but my next major job was that of an inspector. I was over downtown buildings, inspecting buildings, fire safety inspections and all that. Then later on I became an instructor, which I gave fire safety education information to the kids in the school system from K through 3. And I stayed in that position, I say for about 5 or 6 years. In fact, I ended up becoming firefighter of the year for some of my efforts in that department. some information I gave to a young kid, and he helped save his family, and the news media went to him, asked him, how did you learn that? And he said, from Inspector Flowers, who came to my school. And so they sought me out, and I was decorated for that, and I made Firefighter of the Year, and that was in 1987. I was elevated to the rank of district chief, whereas I became the school inspector then over all EVSC schools, Catholic schools, and any educational institution. I was doing the fire prevention programs, going in and inspecting. Then my other major job after that, I stayed in that rank for quite a while, and then I was elevated to the fire chief in the year of 2004 by the Mayor Jonathan Weinzapple, and becoming the first African-American fire chief in the history of the city, actually. And that was, it was something unique about that. You know, even though that was an appointed position, the mayor still depend on a committee to choose these positions, such as police chief and fire chief and all that. And the people that had sat down to interview all of us, they said that they came up with the idea to make me the fire chief from what they had heard from the other applicants that had went for that job. At least 8 out of 10 of the other firemen who had put in applications to become the chief was asked a question, and they asked me that same question. If you didn't get the position, who would you like to have it? And 8 out of those 10 firemen said, well, George Flowers. And that's what made me feel good about the whole thing. So I served, and I was supported by the men, and it was just a wonderful experience. I went on the department kind of late as it was. I decided that, you know, I had had a bout with cancer, and which it had gone fairly well. I was fortunate and blessed enough to come through it. I weighed everything out, talked to my wife, and so I decided, well, yes, you know, even though I am the chief, it's time for me to go. Plus, I had turned 66, you know, so I'm over the Social Security retirement age, actually. So everything was going my way. So I had a lot of things going on. Is the reason that I decided to retire. American Cancer Society, doing the advocacy work for them was one of them. That was most important because I really saw where I was doing some good with that even before I retired. And they weren't paying me, it was all volunteer. They were paying my expenses, and they were sending me all over the country. That was exciting. Texas, wherever it would be, to speak to black men about the importance of being screened or tested for prostate cancer, because at that time a lot of young African-American men were a little reluctant to go in and, so to speak, have their stuff checked. But they were dying twice as fast as anyone else, any other race. And so the council felt that it was important that we get as much of the information out as possible. So I represented the Great Lakes region, which is the states located Ohio, Michigan, Indiana, Illinois, and so they used me to go around the country. Went before Congress twice. The first time was in 2004 for more money for the Minority Health and Health Disparities Organization. At that time they were at $87 million being funded, but we didn't get nothing that year, so they sent me back again in 2 more years, which was in 2006, and I went before Congress again, and we had Congressman John Hochstetler, I think at the time, was there. And I went before his committee. And lo and behold, thank God, we were blessed to get up $197 million for our efforts. And that's the reason for the testing lab at Vanderbilt University. They gave them the grant to do the study on why African Americans seem to be diagnosed with these various cancers more so than any other race. And that was including, I think, even something with females, why they were getting it, and African American men as far as prostate cancer, and then I think diabetes was another one. So there was different experiences that they did down there with that money. Well, I was involved with a whole lot of different organizations, and the one that got closer to me, and that's when at the time, Tim Martin with the Evansville Housing Authority, with the blessings of the mayor, had asked me if I would be interested in coming to take over a youth group, which would be Youth Build. I had never heard of Youth Build before, but they knew of my experiences with kids in schools and different other things that I had did, and they felt like I would make a good match for that program. And that was in 2008. So I came aboard and with the Youth Build program. And just to give you a little background on the Youth Build program, it's for kids from 16 to 24 years old who's fallen out of school for some reason or the other, whether it's early pregnancies or behavioral problems or mixed up with the courts, whatever it would be. And they would come to my program. And it's geared to be a 10-month program, but we'll let children stay a little longer if they are working towards it, if they're not clowning and if they're taking the program serious. And they will come to my program. They would just a three-phase deal. They would work toward their GED or HSC, high school equivalency. They would also learn a job skill, which is carpentry, and they would learn some leadership skills, abilities, and we'd have different people coming in from the private sector talking to them, people from the bank and all walks of life, and letting them know that they too were children or young people at that time, but here they are now doing this and that. And we have our judges come in and talk to the young people as well over the course of their time in the Youth Build program. I've been with that program now since 2008, and it's been so fulfilling just to help young people get to the next level of their lives. It's no secret. Most people know me around the community. My mom, you know, there wasn't a daddy in the house. And we shared, you know, I mean, we all had the same mother. She kept us all together, but there were a few different fathers in there that never showed up. And we were trained to make it on our own. But one thing that gives me the strength I have now is to watch how she would do. There never was a person that could come to our house, even though she was scuffling to feed 7 of us that needed something to eat. She would always make room for one more. And everybody know her for that around the community. So, but anyway, my mom, she was a giving person, a praying person and a giving person, and she instilled that in us, you know. Even though you're having it tough, you know, you can still help someone else, you know. And I've been giving all my life, been giving back. And listen, there's nothing, no greater joy than to see someone smile that you have helped. I mean, if you think money is it, you haven't experienced what I've experienced. And I'm not trying to say I'm an angel, because I got in my share of trouble too coming up. You know, I was hard-headed. Mama go to work out one door, and I'd go out the back door going somewhere else. But she knew how to break me down. She knew how to get in my case. But she taught us to give and kept us in church. And it's a statement that's made, and I don't know who the author is. I didn't coin it, but I live by it. I heard it a long time ago. You know, I learned to give, not because I have much, but because I know how it feels to have nothing.